Hi everyone, welcome back to our Science and Math Challenge series. My name is Miss Savannah, and today we're going to start off by going over the graphs that you guys were to make last time based on the average rainfall for the winter season in the different years. So I have this here, which is what your graphs hopefully came out like. So you can see that we still have this 4 here as the average rainfall over the winter season. So that's the line going across here. And then these are each of those points that we plotted. So in 2010, you can see that there was the least amount of rainfall in the winter season. There could have been a drought or something like that was going on. And then in 2019, you can see that that had the highest amount of rainfall over the winter season, which is something that we already talked about, and how it compared to the overall average. You can see that it was a pretty significant difference there. It was very high. So we are going to now get started with our new challenge. We're going to be talking about population sampling and different communities today. But before we get started, I want to define a couple of things for you, just so we can all understand what we're talking about. So we're going to start on the most basic level, which is going to be an individual. So we're going to draw a small circle here, and this is going to be our individual, which is just one organism. Okay, and then one step up from that is going to be our species. So we are going to draw a circle around this. And the second one is species. So a species is a group of organisms that have similar characteristics. So we go from individual to species, and then we're going to go to a population. And a population is a group of the same species that live in the same area. So that's what our population is. And then from there, we're going to go up to community. And a community is going to include different populations that all live in the same area. So that's what makes up a community. And then our final step is going to be an ecosystem. And the ecosystem is going to include all living and non-living populations within a certain area. So we start off very small at the individual level, and then all of these different things are what's going to encompass an ecosystem. Okay, so we have 3 different communities here, and we are doing some population sampling. So if you take a look over here, you can see our different colored chips. So each color represents a different population. So what we did for this whole community is we just threw the hula hoop down, and we are going to count up the colors, the different populations that are in that specific sample that we're looking at. So for this, we got a total of 10 white, and again, this is in the hula hoop, 10 white, 18 yellow, 7 blue, and some of the other communities you will find out have some red, but this does not have any red population. So we're just looking at the white, yellow, and blue here. So let's go ahead and take a look at our other samples. This was sample 1. Behind me here we have sample 2. So if you take a look inside this hula hoop here, we have a total of 19 white, 3 yellow, 10 blue, and 7 red for sample 2. So I mentioned the red earlier, and this one does have some of that red population in there. Now we're looking at sample number 3 over here, and for this one we have 13 white, 12 yellow, 11 blue, and 16 red. So what we are going to do next is we're going to take a look at these numbers and turn them into some percentages. Okay guys, so now we are going to take a look at percentages as I mentioned earlier, and we're going to look at sample one. So if we add up the total of the colored chips that we got for our sample one, we got 35. And so the first population that we're going to be looking at is the white chips that we counted. So what we're trying to figure out is what part of the whole the white chips make up. So the way that we're going to do that is we are going to take the number of white chips that we counted, which is 10, and then we are going to divide that by the total number of colored chips that we counted, which was 35. So this is how you essentially are going to do percentages. It's always going to be out of 100%. So when you divide 10 by 35, you get 0.286. But what we're actually going to do is we're going to multiply that by 100 since it's a percentage. So we're going to get 28.6%. And again, this is of the white population. So once we add up the percentages from the other population as well, we're going to get a total of 100%. So now we're going to be taking this data and we are going to be putting it into a pie graph. So what's important to remember about a pie graph is that the total of this equals 100%. So a way to look at this is if we wanted to look at 25% of this, we would want to break this into, we'll break it into 4 different quarters. So each of these is going to be 25% to equal the total of 100%. Now what we are trying to do is graph the 28.6%. So in order to do that, if this here is 25, then 28 is going to be just a little bit bigger than that 25% there. So then you could color this in here. And again, this is going to be the 28.6. And then once you guys find the percentages of the other populations, then you're going to draw the rest of the pie graph based on the percentages that you get. Okay guys, so we just went over how to do a pie graph. So surprise, we have another graph that we're going to do as well. So we are also going to be doing a bar graph. Now what we're looking at here, this is just going to be for sample one. So when you guys make these graphs, the pie graphs as well as the bar graphs, you're going to have 3 of each. So you're going to have a graph for sample 1, sample 2, and sample 3. Each one is going to have their own pie graph as well as a bar graph. So again, we're just looking at sample 1 here, and hopefully you remember from last week that on the bottom here, this is our x-axis, and we have the different species here. And then on the y-axis, we have the number of individuals. So I'm just going to be graphing the white for you. So again, for sample 1, the number of white chips that we counted from our sampling was 10. So for our bar graph, we're going to go here up to 10, and we're going to draw a bar. And you guys, you can color it in if you want to. You can make each one a different color, however you want to do it, and then you'll see how the data looks as a bar graph. Below this video, there'll be a link to the worksheet. So we'll have sample 1, sample 2, and sample 3. You guys will get the population size, and then we will also provide you with the circles for you to make your pie graphs. Now for the bar graph that I just showed you guys will actually be putting this together yourselves. So you'll put together the different axes and label them and things like that. So that is your next challenge, and we hope that you tune in next week.